1v1, the male lead is all one person. Qinghe wholeheartedly follows the script provided by the system to follow the plot, but the plot is completely beyond her control. Host, your white moonlight has returned. It's time for you to push the male lead, who is acting as a substitute, down to the execution pedestal. Qinghe helplessly supported his forehead and said, "Are you sure he didn't push me down?" System. When did the male lead become the demon lord? Qinghe. She also wants to know. Host, take care of yourself. The system has slipped first. Faced with the blackened male lead, she chose to die and run away. World 1. Immortal heroes. In the early stage, he had a pure love brain, but in a later stage, he transformed into a demon lord male lead and used the male lead as a stunt double, while being ruthless towards the female lead as a master. World 2. Rich families. White cut black/refined paranoid male lead hiding his true nature. Contract marriage female lead who cheated during marriage. World 3. The palace. With all my heart, I want my father to rely on his son, the regent, the male lead, and the ambitious shield, the empress, and female lead. The rest of the world will gradually supplement. The male lead is a love brain who cannot resist love. I just want to brew wine with my wife and stumble. The female lead's mind is full of scripts and plot twists. Falling in love. Haha, it's impossible to fall in love in this lifetime. Being cruel to a husband can be satisfying for a while, but it's always satisfying to keep running away. In the early stage, women abused men, and the male lead pursued his wife at the crematorium. In the later stage, the male lead went online in a small black room and abused the female lead shallowly. Keywords of the novel. Quick wear. After scuttling the blackened male protagonist, I ran away without a pop-up window. Quick wear. After scuttling the blackened male protagonist, I ran away without a pop-up window. Download the full text. Quick wear. After scuttling the blackened male protagonist, I ran away without a pop-up window. Read the latest chapter. Chapter 1. Substitute apprentice. He tries his teacher to destroy ancestors. 01. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1. Substitute apprentice. He tries his teacher to destroy ancestors. 01. When Qinghe opened his eyes again, his cold eyes filled with autumn water blurred for a moment. Her beautiful eyes flowed and her gaze gradually focused. What is this place? It's so cold. This is mostly a closed space, like a secret room. Apart from the cold jade bed beneath her, there are no ornaments or decorations. Qinghe. What exactly is this situation? At this moment, her conscious system began to produce soft and cute mechanical sounds. Welcome to the cultivation plane. Please host to receive the script. You are Su Qinghe, the seventh elder of the Kunlun Immortal sect, a master of the Mahayana period. You look like an exiled immortal and are the living sign of the Kunlun Immortal sect. Now, you live alone in Qingjing Peak. But the world does not know that you have long been plagued by demons from your childhood sweetheart. He accidentally fell into a demon abyss full of demonic energy to save you. For 300 years, his whereabouts have been unknown, and he has become the white moonlight you cannot hope for. Your realm does not rise but retreat, and your state of mind is becoming increasingly unstable. Qinghe. So don't mess with men, they will only affect the speed of my knife extraction. In order to help you stabilize your realm and improve your cultivation, your head senior brother took the initiative to choose a disciple for you, Luomingge. That little apprentice is like your senior brother in 8 parts. Due to the face of the head senior brother, it's difficult to refuse. In the end, you agreed to accept him as your disciple, but in fact, you regarded Luomingge as your white moonlight substitute in your heart. Qinghe. Apprentice double. This script is a bit too unique. She thinks she's good again. After you took Luomingge as your disciple, the relationship between your master and disciple was cold. You never even took the initiative to teach him the method of cultivation, and you always threw him secret scripts for him to understand on his own. Although Luo Mingge looks similar to your senior brother, their temperament is vastly different. Your senior brother became famous in his youth and has a high level of cultivation. And your little apprentice has average talent and likes to cry very much. He will be scared to cry when thunder strikes, and when encountering insects and snakes, he will be scared to cry. You are very disappointed with him, so, deep down in your heart, you couldn't stop missing your senior brother, so you saw that Luo Mingge was becoming more and more displeased. Not only did you discipline him very harshly, but you also despised him for being a hindrance. You often threw him at the head of the sect for guidance, often ignoring his existence. Isn't this cold violence? She is familiar with this job. System. As soon as she spoke, she was an old scumbag. Host is requested to follow the script and complete important plot milestones. To be ordered to accept apprentices. For some undisclosed reasons, Qinghe chose to work for the system and collect energy from 30,000 worlds. She chose script mode for the task. There is no other reason. Compared to the autonomous strategy mode, the script mode does not require much thinking, just follow the script given by the system to follow the plot. But the script mode has a drawback, as it can be influenced by the emotions of the original owner and sometimes influenced by them. Qinghe sat on the cold jade bed in a daze, accepting the memories of the original owner. The script given to her by the system, as always, is a villain as a villain. She wants to cause trouble for the male lead, hone his will, and temper his body and mind. In order to achieve the standard of first abusing and then sweet, suffering is sweet, she will stage the male lead by abusing him, such as making him a substitute, disabling his martial arts, annihilating his entire clan, pushing him down to the Xiantai, digging his heart in blood, and a series of suppression behaviors. After the male protagonist returns from cheating and becomes Long Outyen, she will symbolically be suppressed by him and abused to the point of regret. Then, she will arrange for him to be with the female protagonist, and her mission will be honorably completed. Qinghe wanted to roast about the plot of Dog Blood when he came here, so he heard the puppet outside report. Your Honor, the leader is here. This puppet was refined by the original owner, and the original owner's puppet technique is unparalleled in the world. There is no problem serving people with tea and water. With these puppets, there are no living people around the original owner. The appearance of the puppet person is quite attractive, and Qinghe speculates that the original owner probably valued appearance. Since the head senior brother arrived, Qinghe stood up and walked out of the closed secret room. The original owner's Qingjing Peak, as its name suggests, is very quiet. On weekdays, there are only 2 or 3 puppets responsible for cleaning. Xiao Qi. The leader's senior brother's loud voice frightened her delicate body. Qinghe. This title should be based on ranking, right? After all, she is the 7th elder. The senior brother of the sect leader approached and said with relief, Xiaoqi, you have finally passed the level. You have been in seclusion for 100 years, but you are really worried about me. Qinghe humbly said, thank you, senior brother. I'm worried. Senior brother in charge is the second in line, with the surname Shui and the courtesy name Daoming. Zhang Yiluo ranks 3rd and is the 3rd senior brother of the original owner. Since Zhang Yiluo's whereabouts are unknown, his second senior brother has taken over as the leader. Xiaoqi, guess what good thing senior brother brought you? The senior brother in charge arrived at her Qingjing Peak in a lively manner, dressed in a black Taoist robe, with a somewhat ethereal appearance. Qinghe, who knows the plot, said, Are you sure what you brought is something? Xiao Qi, look at this. This is a disciple that senior brother specially collected for you this year. He is 1 in 100 good seedlings, a rare heavenly spirit root. The senior brother in charge smiled and pulled out a young boy from behind, only reaching his waist. Qinghe couldn't help but twitch at the corner of his mouth. Isn't this the male lead Luo Mingge? The senior brother in charge rubbed the young boy's head and said, haven't you met your master quickly? The young boy timidly said, Minga, I have seen Master, Qinghe. Is it okay to deliver the goods to your doorstep? Host, according to the script, you should agree to the leader and accept him as an apprentice. Qinghe turned his gaze to Luo Minga and scrutinized him without leaving a trace. The young boy had a yellowish and emaciated face, with a look of malnutrition, indicating that he had suffered a lot before. But upon closer inspection, there was also a hint of elegance. This child really bears some resemblance to the original owner, Bai Yueguang. No wonder he was used as a substitute. Thank you for your kindness, senior brother. I can take him as my disciple, but I have never taken him as my disciple. Please give me a disciple with such talent. I'm worried that I won't be able to teach him well, so I'll ask senior brother to take care of him in the future. The senior brother in charge smiled and stroked his beard. Shao Qi, don't worry about not teaching your disciples well. Look at Lao Wu, Lao Lu, and the disciples they have received are all living well, aren't they? Qinghe. For them, being alive is enough to teach their emotional disciples. The senior brother in charge also said, don't worry, if this child disturbs your cultivation, you can send him to my place. I have public classes every year, and my disciples have to go there. It's not much to have more of you, not much to have less of you. Since that's the case, then he'll stay. Just as she agreed to accept this disciple, Qinghe heard a system prompt sound ringing in his mind. Congratulations on completing the plot. Being ordered to accept the apprentices. Host, please continue to work hard, it's another day of carefully following the plot, Qinghe. Mine clearance guidelines. 1. The female lead is a scumbag, a scumbag. 2. I am the female protagonist, emotionally abusing a male, having a son, but the male protagonist should be cautious. 3. The female protagonist may not love the male protagonist in the early stages and may not necessarily love him in the later stages, it all depends on the author's mood. 4. I love the plot of pursuing my wife in a crematorium and a small black room. If I feel that my values are not right, please leave. 5. I am an aesthetic enthusiast, and the likelihood of being in each plane is high. The outcome is 1v1, possible, he. 6. Malevolent male equals malevolent, male lead plus male supporting, 7. A combination of scumbags, women, and men plus splashing heavenly dog blood Shura Field 8. Author Glass Heart, please do not elevate the author in the novel world. End of this chapter. Chapter 2. Substitute apprentice he tries his teacher to destroy ancestors 02. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2. Substitute apprentice he tries his teacher to destroy ancestors 02. When the senior brother in charge left, he also instructed the young boy a few words, but Qinghe didn't pay much attention. According to the script, she should be indifferent to this disciple. So, she naturally left a puppet to take care of her little apprentice. Luming couldn't help feeling a bit disappointed as he watched his master leave. It seemed that the master didn't really like him, but he really likes his master. She looks so good. He is the most beautiful fairy he has ever seen. I heard that she is still the most advanced elder in the cultivation of Kunlun Immortal sect. Being able to be her disciple is truly a blessing he has earned for several lifetimes. He will work hard to make his master like him. The puppet took Luo Minga to wash up just because he looked a bit dirty. The owner of Qingjing Peak is obsessed with cleanliness and cannot tolerate filth. The puppet did not take care of the mortal cubs, so they prepared him with cold bath water. Luoming Goming knew that the water was cold and not suitable for bathing, but he did not say so and still used cold water for bathing. The leader said that no matter what the master does, she must find a way to rely on her side so that she can be good to him and willing to teach him. However, master is too difficult to approach, and she doesn't give him a chance to approach at all. So, he can only create opportunities. It's just bathing in cold water. What he's not afraid of is at most a fever. As long as he can get the attention of his master, he can withstand this little pain. Qinghe asked the system, the senior brother in charge said that the male lead is a heavenly spirit root, so why does he still have mediocre talent? That's because the male lead's constitution is extremely mean. Qinghe fused the memories of the original owner and naturally knew what the extreme mean constitution meant. The extremely mean constitution, also known as the furnace ding constitution. The constitution of a furnace cauldron is naturally not suitable for cultivation. People with this constitution will mostly be treated as furnace cauldrons by those who practice, fully replenishing them to improve their cultivation. The male lead is already considered lucky, because he is a heavenly spirit root, so even the constitution of the furnace cauldron is not a big deal, it's just that his talent is mediocre. System, can the male lead's physique be changed? Host, what are you asking about this? It's not related to your mission, is it? Qinghe. I'll just ask. It's impossible to change a physique like the male lead, but if he cultivates himself, he can also improve it a bit. Qinghe didn't understand, how can one cultivate oneself and cultivate one's character? As long as he maintains his childlike nature and with Miao Huadan's words, the talent of the heavenly spirit root should be able to be unleashed by about 80%. Maintaining the body of a child can be a good thing, just like guarding the female lead like a jade. It's just that Miao Huadan. According to the original owner's memory, Namu Huadan is a sacred medicine of the Qinghe sect, which is very rare. Nowadays, only Yun Bumian from the Qinghe sect can refine it. Host, the system advises you not to do meaningless things. You just need to follow the script. What do you mean by meaningless things? Help the male lead change his physique. Why can't I help the male lead change his physique? System impatience. You are violating the script rules. Qinghe forcefully explained, no. I helped the male lead change his physique to make him stronger, so that he can be more like my senior brother. System. That's not a bad explanation. It just always feels strange. Qinghe is still trying to brainwash the system, while her puppet comes over to report. Your esteemed disciple, he seems to be sick. The puppet seemed to be feeling a bit guilty and lacked confidence. Qinghe. I was originally planning to let the male lead dry for a while, but that's great. Changes are always faster than planned. What's the way to find her? She doesn't know how to treat children. Go to Yaoyang Peak and ask the doctor to show him. The puppet took orders and went to Yaoyang Peak. The doctor has been invited, but the senior brother in charge has also come. Qinghe, one head and too big, said, Faced with the skeptical gaze of the senior brother in charge, Qinghe, although feeling guilty, did not avoid it. The senior brother in charge asked, what's going on? Qinghe shook his head and said, I don't know either. These days, puppets have been taking care of that child. After listening to her words, the leader seemed even angrier. You handed over a living child to a puppet to serve. Ah. Qinghe was puzzled, can't we? Puppets have been serving me well these years, haven't they? The leader rolled his eyes in anger and said, that's a child just selected from the mortal world, very fragile. How can you entrust it to a puppet to serve? Qinghe clearly lacked confidence and muttered softly, what can I do? It's impossible for me to take care of him myself, right? The leader's elder martial brother sighed, Shao Qi, that's your disciple, not your burden. Would you like to serve dim sum more or less to that child? Qinghe remained silent. What does she have in mind? She has to follow the script and is destined not to be too kind to the male lead. The leader thought that 7th junior sister was not convinced, so he couldn't help but say a few more words. Senior brother knows that your cultivation is stagnant, and you feel sad. But there are many things in this world that are more important than cultivation. Why is it not a pleasure to preach, teach, and dispel doubts? Qinghe pursed his lips slightly, looking as if oil and salt wouldn't enter. The leader couldn't help but sigh when he saw the situation. He turned around and stood with his hand on his back. Shao Qi, to be honest with your senior brother, don't you like this disciple? Qinghe opened his mouth and was about to say something when the system went online again. Host, you can't say you don't like it. This way, the leader will send the male lead away. You have indirectly changed the plot. Qinghe is really impressed. I can't say I don't like it, and I can't be good to him. Isn't this just delaying him for no reason? Make her look like a scumbag, she doesn't like it and still hangs. Senior brother misunderstood. How could I not like the apprentice you personally selected for me? It's just the first time I've collected my apprentice, and I still feel a bit uncomfortable. The senior brother in charge nodded, as if believing her words. Xiaoqi, don't put too much pressure on yourself. Your cultivation is stagnant. You can think of other ways. Senior brother asked you to take on an apprentice to help you relax. Look at your 5th and 6th, haven't they been quite happy since taking on an apprentice? Qinghe. This senior brother from the sect is indeed a bit nagging. They took their apprentices for fun, and she took them purely to follow the plot. Essentially, it's not the same, right? Qinghe felt a bit helpless. The leader couldn't help but sound out a reminder when he saw that senior sister 7 was still distracted. Little 7. Ah. Qinghe snapped back to his senses. Is there anything else, senior brother leader? The leader couldn't help but scold. What are you thinking in your mind all day? You are always absent-minded. I can tell you, your disciple who teaches well will be a good seedling. We Kunlun Immortal sect will still rely on these young people in the future. Teach me well. If you are interested, you can join a book friend group Q group. 7949267577 fans with a fan value of 100 or above can join the group, and the group file has a blocked section. Fan value can be obtained through consumption of coins, and can be obtained through subscription, recommended tickets, and tipping. Those who can't wait for updates can read the completed article. End of this chapter. Chapter 3. Substitute Apprentice. He bullies his teacher and destroys ancestors. 03. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3. Substitute Apprentice. He bullies his teacher and destroys ancestors. 03. Qinghe perfunctorily said, all right, I know senior brother. The senior brother in charge stopped talking when he saw the situation. He made him talk too much, which would only make people annoyed. Besides, Xiaoqi has always been a person with a sense of propriety. Since that's the case, senior brother won't disturb you anymore. After taking 2 steps, the senior brother in charge suddenly turned back to look at her puppet. Qinghe asked, is there anything else, senior brother? The leader pointed at the puppet and said, oh by the way, you can stop using these 2 puppets. You need to learn to take care of people on your own. I'll take these 2 puppets with me. Qinghe. She deeply suspected that the senior brother in charge had been coveting these 2 puppets for a long time. After all, not all cultivators in the world of cultivation have puppets. Only those powerful beings with high magical power can afford to use puppets. Now that the puppet was gone, she had to personally take care of the mortal cub. Then she encountered the first challenge, as the male lead had been settling down as a puppet since moving into Qinghe Peak, and she had no idea where the person was. Qinghe was still speechless last time. The leader is really boring, he wants to leave her 2 puppets for no reason. Alright now, she doesn't even have anyone to manipulate. Fortunately, my original major was advanced, and I could easily detect the presence of human breath in that direction by simply running my spiritual power. Qinghe followed the direction pointed by the spiritual power. Next to her sleeping hall. Qinghe. The male lead lives next door to me. Who arranged it? Well. Forget it, we can't let him move now, can we? When Qinghe walked into the room, Luo Minga's eyes lit up and he said, Master. I heard you're sick, so I'll come and take a look. Qinghe humbly sat on the couch, and before he could say anything more, the young boy grabbed her hand and placed it on his forehead. He coquettishly said, "Master, Minga too is so hot and uncomfortable." Qinghe. She tried to pull her hand out, but the boy tightly grabbed her hem. So she shook her hand and said, "Let go." Luo Minga reluctantly let go of his hand, tears in his eyes, as if he couldn't let go. As if accusing her of being ruthless. Qinghe was under a lot of pressure and asked the system secretly, "Why do we have to resort to cold violence against such a young child? Does this not affect the physical and mental health of the male lead?" As the saying goes, when the heavens will bestow great burdens on a person, they must first work hard on their own will. Stop. No need to say, "I understand." The young boy tightly grasped the corner of her clothes and said, "Master, don't miss me. I am very sensible and easy to take care of." Qinghe impatiently said, "Don't cry." The child's crying annoyed her. The young boy suddenly shrunk his mouth and watched as tears were about to flow out of his eyes. Qinghe stood up with a brush of his sleeve and explained, "Since I have promised the leader to accept you as an apprentice, I will not break my promise." Then she placed the pill given to him by Yao Yangfeng on the table and turned around to leave. Luo Minga didn't care about anything else and just got up and followed out. Qinghe heard a faint voice behind him and turned around to see the little boy barefoot walking down to the ground and following him. She instinctively frowned and said, "Aren't you still sick? What is this for? Master, can you not leave?" I'm afraid. Host, you can't agree to him. We have a script, so we can't ruin our character. Qinghe had no choice but to face coldly and say, "I have always disliked trouble. If you want to stay, be obedient and sensible. Take the medicine and recover as soon as possible. As for staying with you, I don't have time." The young boy, feeling aggrieved, wiped away his tears and looked at her with red eyes. "Master, I'm obedient. Don't drive me away, I'm not afraid." Qinghe felt that her patience was about to be worn away, and she didn't have much mood to face that little crying bag, so she ran away in despair. Heavenly longevity. This bear child is really killing. The young boy took the pill, slept a little, and felt much better. He woke up early the next morning. He thought that he had not yet formally paid his respects to his master, so he enthusiastically stood by his master's dormitory and greeted him when he got up. He waited until noon, and there was still no movement in the dormitory. So he boldly spoke up and asked, "Master, I want to greet you." However, no one replied to him. The young boy felt something was wrong and boldly trespassed into the dormitory, but there was no one inside. He felt extremely uneasy in his heart, so he began shouting loudly at Qinghe, "Master! Master!" But no matter how many times he shouted, no one answered him. He searched all the rooms in Qinghe but couldn't find his master. The young boy waited from dawn until dark. He returned to the master's dormitory in a daze, but the master still didn't come back. He doesn't understand why doesn't the master see him? Why can't I find my master anywhere? Did master abandon him? At the thought of this, the mortal cub pounced on the bed and burst into tears. After crying for a while, it was probably her scent on the bed that made him feel a little relieved. He cried and fell asleep. He didn't wake up suddenly until the next day when the sun rose and warm sunshine enveloped him. He actually slept in the master's bed all night. Realizing this, he crawled up from the master's bed. Then he saw the wet tears on the bedsheet. Suddenly, the little boy's ears turned red and he felt ashamed. He actually dirted the master's bed. Master will blame him when he returns, but the master hasn't returned yet. Where did she go? Master, shouldn't he have despised him for being troublesome? Don't you want him anymore? That's why I left him here alone. The young boy squatted on the ground helplessly, holding his knees and his little head lying on them, crying loudly. I don't know how long it took, but in a daze, the sun had already set in the west, accompanied by the glow, and that person appeared slowly. Luming finally heard the commotion and hesitated, lifting his cerebellar pouch to look at the newcomer. Master. He instinctively wanted to run over and hug his master's thigh, but after squatting for too long, his leg had already numbed, and he fell directly onto a dog gnawing on the mud. The small face that was originally crying was even more beautiful, very embarrassed. Qinghe went to the Qinghe sect these days, hoping to find Miao Huadan with Yun Wumian to change the male lead's physique. Unexpectedly, Yun Bumian went on a wandering trip to the mortal world, with an uncertain return date. She had no choice but to return to the Kunlun Immortal sect first and find Yun Bumian again next time she had the opportunity. As soon as I returned to Qingjing Peak, I heard someone sobbing softly and vaguely heard, Master. Sob. Master doesn't want me anymore. The little milk voice was out of breath, intermittent, and Qinghe thought he had heard it wrong. It wasn't until the owner of the voice fell in front of her that she realized it was the little one crying. Those who can't wait for updates can take a look at this book _ Angle _ the fast-wearing villain is a sickly and delicate woman, author. Yuli thinks about it. World 1. Inferiority complex male lead versus wealthy adopted daughter marrying female lead, World 2. Entertainment industry's dominant female lead versus poor and beautiful male lead running a dragon suit, World 3. Love but not sect junior brother versus abandoned demon world undercover senior sister, World 4. Male disguise as a paranoid male lead versus gentle and elegant exiled female lead, World 5. Born with pet and adorned by the rich and noble flower in the world versus the precious prince who covets his sister. Law, end of this chapter. Chapter 4. Substitute apprentice he tries his teacher to destroy ancestors. 04. You are listening at novel full. Audio. Chapter 4. Substitute apprentice he tries his teacher to destroy ancestors. 04 Luo Minga got up from the ground and didn't care about anything, so he immediately hugged her thigh. The little one tilted his head back and pressed against a pair of swollen apricot eyes that were already crying. The little one cried and said, Master, I was wrong. I will never make Master unhappy again. Don't leave me. Qinghe looked at the hanging pendant on his leg, which was still the kind that couldn't be thrown away. She helplessly helped her forehead. At that time, I was busy looking for Miao Huadan for the male lead and forgot to tell him about her leaving. Let go. Her tone was somewhat impatient. But the little boy hugged his thighs even tighter. Qinghe. She didn't talk nonsense either. She grabbed the little guy by the back of his neck, lifted him up, and then put him down. What can't be said properly? What kind of nonsense is it? The young boy, feeling aggrieved, wiped away his tears and timidly said, I thought. Master is bothering me and doesn't want me anymore. He cried so hard that he choked up, and at the same time, he let out a hiccup, pitifully. Qinghe is 2 years old and has never had much patience with human offspring, nor does she like children to cry. Unfortunately, at this moment, the system still remembers the lowly way, host, why don't you like children? You can't bear it, can you? I see your fists are hard, ha ha ha. Qinghe, who clenched his fist, said, She wants to change the system. Glancing at the whimpering human cub again, she comforted herself and said that killing is illegal, killing is illegal. Don't see it in the same way as a child. Children are creatures that cannot be threatened. If they are threatened, they will only cry more miserably and be more annoying. So she patiently explained, I have some urgent matters to attend to, and I forgot to tell you. It's not that I want to leave you behind. You should be sensible and obedient, don't cry anymore. Although the young boy stopped crying, he still twitched and said, My disciple. I am obedient, as long as the master does not abandon me. The little one finally stopped crying, and Qinghe finally breathed a sigh of relief. Then he casually threw him a few secret books to practice. Qinghe has always followed the requirements of the script, becoming a cold and ruthless master, always keeping a cold face towards the male lead. The male protagonist grew up bit by bit and has been practicing diligently. Although his talent is average, he has also reached the goal of building a foundation. Otherwise, how can we say that he is the male lead? Even if his talent is average, he is diligent and can make up for his shortcomings. He is not inferior to his peers and can also manage Qinghe in an orderly manner, like a little butler. Under the care of Luo Mingge, Qinghe lived a comfortable retirement life at a young age and didn't have to worry about anything. She only needs to occasionally guide the male lead and make a good appearance, and most of the time, she leaves it to the parents to take care of the children. Luo Mingge jumped from a little guy who was less than her waist height to about her height. Most likely, he has grown up a bit and no longer likes to cry. Qinghe is no longer so impatient with him. From childhood to adulthood, except for thunderstorm nights, Luo Mingge would be scared to cry and run to her dormitory to burrow into the bed. At other times, she was very satisfied with this little apprentice, and occasionally felt that the child was well behaved and obedient, showing a lot of patience in teaching. Being a human being just can't be too salty fish, her salty fish system can't stand it anymore. The system has sent the script. Due to your obsession with Senior White Moonlight, your inner demons are increasing day by day, and you have reached the point where you have to practice in seclusion. Therefore, you have decided to throw the annoying disciple to the head senior brother in order to concentrate on cultivation. Luming, who had been under your tutelage since childhood, had some unspeakable chick plots with you, so he didn't want to leave Qinghe and only wanted to guard you. Qinghe. What is an unspeakable chick plot? She doesn't understand. By the way, are you a legitimate system? The system exploded and said, "What do you mean you don't understand? Are you 100,000 people who don't understand? What plot are you giving me? Just follow the script. It is certainly a serious system of abusive language." Qinghe. Plot. You coldly scolded him for not seeking progress. He was despised by the respected master, and had no choice but to agree with a sad and sorrowful expression. Playing the role of the ruthless master, Qinghe casually pinched it. She follows the plot according to the script. As a teacher, I need to stay in seclusion for a while. During this time, you can go to the sect leader's place to learn the techniques. The leader has always liked Luo Mingge very much, for no other reason. Luo Mingge practices too hard and is a hardworking and heartbreaking child. I thought everything was ready, but only Luo Mingge moved to the leader's place. However, I didn't expect Luo Mingge himself to disagree. No matter what she said, he didn't want to leave Qinghe, and he cried and made a fuss about it. "Master, I don't want to leave Qinghe. Even if I'm alone, I'm not alone. With Master accompanying him, he's not alone." Qinghe couldn't figure it out for a long time. Compared to watching her pass alone, isn't it more beneficial to learn some spells from the leader? Luo Mingge is stubborn, and what he believes is difficult to change. Qinghe is not at all flustered, she has a script. Are you having hard wings and not listening to my teacher's words? Or are you not striving for progress and thinking that it will only take you 10 years to build a foundation before you become arrogant? Luo Mingge felt aggrieved in his heart. "Master, I don't have it, I dare not. If you still recognize me as your master, just obediently go to the sect leader to learn the techniques. When I come out of seclusion, I will check your cultivation results." Qinghe's cold and ruthless. I obey your orders." Luo Mingge dared not confront her, so he had to obediently listen. "Congratulations on completing the plot. Manager/tutor/apprentice. Please continue to work hard, don't drift, Qinghe. I always feel something strange. By the way, is it a legitimate system? The system is so angry that it freezes." Before leaving, Luo Mingge gave a special opinion to Qinghe. The young man stood at the entrance of her dormitory with tears in his eyes, eagerly watching her. Qinghe remained calm on his face, but in reality, he secretly cursed the garbage system. This non-personnel system. A plot that goes against common sense. 3 years later, Qinghe's seclusion ended. As soon as she walked out of the closed mansion, she looked up and saw her little apprentice standing at the door, eagerly waiting for her. Looking at his slender figure, Qinghe was slightly taken aback, as the child seemed to have grown taller again. She had just run over and touched the child's head, exclaiming, "My family has just grown up." As soon as she took one step, she was warned by the system not to ruin her character. Qinghe. Shit. Helpless, she had no choice but to hold her face high and stare at her disciple. Luo Mingge didn't care about these things, he ran over and hugged her waist. He affectionately rubbed against her hair and said in a coquettish tone, "Master. I miss you so much." End of this chapter. Chapter 5. Substitute Apprentice. He bullies his teacher and destroys ancestors. 05. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5. Substitute Apprentice. He bullies his teacher and destroys ancestors. 05. I only realized when I got closer that this child was much taller than her. This child used to hug her legs when she was young, but as she grew up, she hugged her waist, but it's really Qinghe's impression of him still lingers in the image of a crying little kid. In the blink of an eye, he has grown so big. Host, pay attention to your character. You are a cold and ruthless master. Besides, you guys are a bit different. Is it okay to hold each other? The system's words startled Qinghe. She pushed away her enthusiastic disciple and said calmly, "As we grow older, why don't we see stability?" There is not much blame in reverse. However, Luo Mingge's eyes turned red as he watched his master push him away, feeling indescribable grievances in his heart. Master. As soon as Qinghe saw that he was about to cry, he felt a deep sense of unease. He was so old that he even liked to cry. Sigh, how did you learn that I passed the level today? Luo Mingge looked into her sparkling eyes and said, "It was calculated by the sixth elder. He divined and calculated that you will leave the past during this period, and the disciple will stay here a few days in advance." Qinghe raised his eyes, and the two of them looked at each other. The man in front of him had sincere almond eyes, bright eyes full of tenderness, thin lips flushed, and black hair cascading down like a waterfall, casually scattered without any extra decoration, but it made the smile even more sincere. At this moment, his appearance coincided with the senior brother in the original owner's memory, and they really resembled each other. Although Qinghe knew that Luo Mingge and Songyelua were two people, the memories of the original owner were noisy, and for a moment, she was also stunned. Luming saw his master staring straight at him, and he froze, feeling a bit embarrassed. His eyes trembled and he swayed. Waiting for Qinghe to come to his senses, he saw Luo Mingge with a shy and coquettish expression. Suddenly feeling uneasy, she quickly withdrew her gaze. "I believe it must be another demon causing trouble." She quickly changed the topic and said, "During my years of seclusion, have you studied spells with the leader well?" Luo Mingge nodded and glanced at her again. He muttered, "Report to master, I have learned a lot from the sect leader and have always been obedient. Qinghe nodded in satisfaction and said, "That's good. Since you have achieved something in your studies, you might as well go down the mountain and experience it after consulting the leader in a while." Upon hearing this, Luo Mingge's smile suddenly froze on his face, and he complained with grievances, "Master, you have only recently left the level. I would like to accompany you for a while longer, and I am not in a hurry to go down the mountain for training." Qinghe also felt that what he said made sense and nodded in agreement. "You can decide on your own experience." Upon hearing that there was no need to go down the mountain, Luo Mingge was overjoyed and held Qinghe's hand, running towards the side hall where he lived. "Master, I'll show you something." Qinghe didn't notice for a moment, so he held his hand. Luming appears calm on the surface, but in reality, his heart is beating drums and his heartbeat can be heard. As he walked to the entrance of the side hall, Qinghe suddenly realized it and let go of his hand. "What do you want to show me?" Luo Mingge opened the door and invited her in to take a look. Qinghe was about to take a step when the system went online again. "Host, you are different from the male lead in terms of gender. As his master, it is not appropriate for you to enter his bedroom like this, which is not in line with your strict character." Qinghe. Character design. Persona everyday persona. She definitely won't choose script mode in the next world. Master. Luo Mingge looked at her inexplicably as he saw his master still for a long time. Qinghe glanced at the male lead and explained, "There are differences between men and women. Now that you have grown up, it is inconvenient for me to enter your bedroom as a teacher. If you have anything, just bring it over." Luo Mingge lowered his eyes with some disappointment, and the corners of his lips moved slightly. "Master, do you not like me? That's why I have repeatedly rejected my intentions." All of a sudden, Qinghe couldn't handle it. "Don't think too much, I don't have this intention as a teacher." With a serious face. Luo Mingge was skeptical, but didn't say much. Instead, he walked directly into the room and then walked out holding a guqin. "I heard that, master, you like the jiaowei qin of the four elders. Now the four elders have given it to me, and I want to borrow flowers to offer to Buddha as a gift to master." As soon as Qinghe saw the qin, his mind became unstable again. She quickly averted her gaze and said, "Since the fourth elder has given it to you and explained that you have a connection with this qin, please keep it." She caressed the strings and murmured, "Aoyuo." Immediately, as if remembering something, he suddenly regained consciousness and patted the little apprentice's shoulder. "You have a heart, I just left the level and need to adjust myself." Luo Mingge looked at his left shoulder. "Did master get close to him just now?" In the past decade or so, the master has never actively approached him. Master calls him Arlo. Master. After speaking, she left without looking back. Qinghe had just returned to his own dormitory when he couldn't control himself and spat out a big mouthful of blood. "Host. Are you okay?" She wiped the blood from the corners of her mouth with indifference, feeling extremely helpless. "I'm fine. In fact, that jiaowei qin is not loved by the original owner, it is Zhang who likes to play the piano." In the original owner's memory, the gentle elder brother who played the piano had long been unaware of his life and death in the demon abyss. The system is despicable. If you're okay, then this system will release a new storyline. Qinghe. Plot. You fell ill from longing for senior brother by Yueguang, and accidentally developed a heart demon that repeatedly devoured your heart. Under various helplessness, you had no choice but to pick up your pen and draw a portrait of your senior brother to reflect on things and people, in order to express your longing. Qinghe is painstakingly engrossed in painting. She had an ominous premonition that this damn system was definitely going to cause trouble, and this portrait was definitely a lie. She never knew how to paint, but fortunately, the original owner's painting was good. Inheriting this body, the calculation also inherits the cultivation and skills of the original owner. After finishing the painting, she also carefully examined it. Although she knew she was painting a desolate landscape, she had to admit that the characters in this painting were 8 points similar to her little apprentice, especially in this aspect, which was almost identical. "Master." It's the little apprentice calling her. Qinghe's extremely panicked and anxious. "Hurry up and put away your senior brother's portrait." Stepping out of the dormitory calmly, he asked, "What's up?" Luo Mingge respectfully replied, "Master, I invite you, master." Qinghe nodded and said, "I understand." It must be the senior brother in charge who learned that she had passed the level and wanted to reminisce with her. She casually threw 2 secret books to Luo Mingge and said, "I'll go to Mount Tai as my teacher, so you can understand them well." Luming looked at Qinghe's distant figure, holding those two secret books, and his heart was greatly shaken. The master is never stingy with him, and she gives precious secrets like this as she pleases. Master treated him so well. How could he disappoint Master? End of this chapter. Chapter 6. Substitute Apprentice. He bullies his teacher and destroys ancestors. 06. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Chapter 6. Substitute Apprentice. He bullies his teacher and destroys ancestors. 06. Luominga's hand tightened again as he held those two secret books. In Luominga's view, his master was not a cold and ruthless person. She was just not good at expressing herself and remained silent. Master is cold on the outside and hot on the inside, not good at words, but he teaches him without reservation. Many secrets are given. 2 High Peak. The senior brother in charge held a white porcelain teacup and asked with great concern, Xiaoqi, have you stabilized your realm after being in seclusion for these days? Qinghe shook his head very honestly, then took a light sip of tea and said, Senior brother Lao is worried, but my realm is becoming more unstable and difficult to break through. Master. How could that be? Isn't your realm already stable? Qinghe sighed and admitted, Second senior brother, every time I dream back at midnight, I always remember senior brother. He fell into the devil's abyss to save me, and it was I who caused him. The leader slapped the teacup on the table and said, Xiaoqi. I've said it many times, it's not your fault for that, third brother. Qinghe was already in tears, and the leader couldn't say a word. He knows how deep the relationship between the third and seventh is. If it weren't for the incident in the beginning, their children would probably have been using soy sauce. The leader sighed helplessly and said, Xiaoqi, senior brother knows that your heart is difficult to solve, so he specially made the decision to accept a disciple for you. But I didn't expect you to still. Qinghe suddenly lifted his head and looked at the leader, saying sternly, Second senior brother, I know you're doing it for my good, but no matter how much he looks like me, he's not senior brother. The person in my heart has always been senior brother, not that face. I can only have a mentor-disciple relationship with him. I'm afraid I will betray senior brother's kindness. The leader sighed again and said, It's because senior brother didn't think carefully about this matter, but at this point, senior brother still hopes you can pick yourself up. As for Minga, that child. He'll stay at Qingjing Peak for now, it's okay, Qinghe said. That's great. The leader stroked his beard with satisfaction. By the way, I heard you've been inquiring about the whereabouts of the young Dr. Zhong Yun, who is not sleeping, a while ago. Qinghe nodded slightly and asked, Senior brother, do you know the whereabouts of that person? Leader. When you were in seclusion before, there was a disciple of the Qinghe sect who said that Yun Bumian was likely in the city of Luoyang. If you are in a hurry to find her, you can go to the city of Luoyang. Luoyang City. Qinghe was slightly surprised. According to the original owner's memory, the city of the king of Lu is clearly a dead city. Why did Yun Wumian go there without sleep? Master. This matter is indeed suspicious. In theory, the people of the Qinghe sect should not act in this way. They told you where Yun Bumian was, probably hoping that you would go. Qinghe frowned tightly and said, I have heard of the city of King Lu. It is easy to enter but difficult to exit. Many cultivators have been damaged there. Host, I'm here to post a new plot again, plot. You heard that Yun Wumian is likely to be trapped in the city of Luoyang, so you decide to set off and go to the city of Luoyang to explore the truth. Your disciple Luo Minga heard that you were going to the city of Lu and insisted on going with him. You felt that this was indeed a rare opportunity for him to experience, so you readily agreed. Qinghe said expressionlessly to the leader, since the people of the Qinghe sect have already turned to our Kunlun Immortal sect for help, it indicates that Yun Bumian may be in a difficult situation. I do have something to ask her for help, so it seems that I must go on this trip. End of this chapter. Chapter 7. Substitute Apprentice. He bullies his teacher and destroys ancestors. 07. You are listening at Novel Full. Audio. Chapter 7. Substitute Apprentice. He bullies his teacher and destroys ancestors. 07 Leader. Shao Qi's trip is dangerous, you need to be more careful. Okay. As soon as I returned from Mount Tai, I saw the young man practicing swordsmanship in the courtyard. Qinghe approached quietly, offering rare guidance. Keep your waist and spine straight, exert force on your wrist, and keep your eyes open. After completing a set of sword techniques, Luo Minga sheathed his sword and said, "Thank you for your guidance, master." Qinghe silently averted his gaze and said, "I believe that practicing magic is your strength, but this swordsmanship requires more practice." Compared to him, it's really far behind. The young man nodded silently without saying a word. Did he disappoint the master? His swordsmanship is indeed too inferior. As a teacher, you will be leaving Kunlun for a period of time. During this time, you need to practice swordsmanship diligently and thoroughly understand the secret scripts. Luo Minga looked up in shock and said, "Master, where are you going?" Lu Wangcheng, searching for people. The young man remained silent for a moment and looked at her with a hesitant expression. There's something to say, but it's okay to say it. Qinghe actually knew in his heart that according to the script, this child probably wanted to go with him. After hesitating for a moment, the young man finally spoke up and said, "Master, if I want to follow you, I will treat it as an experience. Is that okay?" Looking at the cautious expression on the young man's face, she couldn't bear to refuse. Qinghe nodded slightly, as if he had agreed. She has been locked up in the secret room for the past 3 years, but has never returned to the dormitory. But when she stepped into the dormitory, she could feel that the decorations inside were as brand new, clean and tidy, especially her bed, as if it were new. Qinghe turned his head to look at the disciple behind him, and his eyes coincidentally met hers. The boy was like a cat with its tail stepped on, and his whole body was on edge. Qinghe couldn't understand, was this child really afraid of her? Especially as she stared at the bed, he seemed increasingly nervous. She pointed to the bed, and before she could say anything, the young man stared at a pair of innocent apricot eyes, as if feeling guilty and afraid. Qinghe sighed lightly and said, "You don't have to be so afraid of being a teacher. You are my disciple, and even if I am a teacher, I won't be too harsh on you." The young man quickly shook his head to deny and explained in a panic, "No, master. He immediately became nervous and stuttered, wanting to explain but not knowing how to do so. His face turned red, and he was so ashamed that he couldn't bear it. She waved her hand and said, "It's okay. Did you clean this room?" The young man nodded in panic and said, "I don't know when the master came out of seclusion, so I often clean up." Qinghe couldn't help frowning at the words and said, "You shouldn't bother doing such a thing. It's all because the head senior brother wanted to leave her puppet." The young man drooped his head and said, "Master, I have violated." Qinghe shook his head helplessly and said, "I didn't mean to scold you. You did a good job. It's rare that you have this kind of heart. In the future, let's leave such small matters to puppets." Luo Minga raised his head in disbelief, his sincere apricot eyes revealing a different kind of radiance, with curved eyebrows and eyes that looked very attractive. These eyes are really similar to that person. Qinghe looked away awkwardly and dared not look directly at the young apprentice in front of him. "Cough cough, you go back and prepare. Tomorrow, I will take you to the city of King Lu. This trip is dangerous and you should bring more magical tools." "Yes, master." Luo Minga returned to his own dormitory, walked straight to the bed, buried himself in the pillow, and took a deep breath. Master. End of this chapter. Chapter 8. Substitute Apprentice. He bullies his teacher and destroys ancestors. 08. You are listening at Novel Full. Audio. Chapter 8. Substitute Apprentice. He bullies his teacher and destroys ancestors. 08 Master. full of the taste of the master. That's right, he took the initiative to change the master's bedding. Every night, he falls asleep under the blanket used by his master, and even in his dreams, he laughs. At that time, the master pointed to the bed and asked him, thinking that his actions had been discovered by the master. So, that's why he feels so guilty and dares to fight. He knew he was rebellious and had such a filthy mind towards his master at some point. But he can't control it. The next day. Before leaving, Qinghe looked at the thin boy lost in thought. She asked, "Are you planning to go to Lu Wang City like this?" The young man nodded in confusion. Qinghe looked at him and said, "Do you have a sword?" "We are flying with a sword on this trip. If you don't have a decent sword, it may cause a lot of delay on the way." Then Luo Minga showed her his sword, the unified sword of Kunlun disciples. Qinghe expressionlessly took out the Qianquan bag, took out a decent-looking sword from inside, and casually threw it to him. "You can use this sword for now, and I will forge a new one for you as a teacher in the future." Luo Minga caught the sword, pulled out the scabbard, and the sword reflected a cold light. "This sword is very good, but as soon as Qinghe gave him the sword, he regretted it a bit. That sword is his." The young man seemed to be very fond of this sword and asked her excitedly, "Master, does this sword have a name?" "Cold Sky." When a sword has a name, it indicates that the sword has a master. Luo Minga thought this was the master's sword, so he didn't think too much. Until Qinghe took out his own destiny sword and entered the cloud. Han Xiao and Ru Yun were originally a pair, but unfortunately that person the master and apprentice flew with swords, heading towards the direction of Lu Wang City. Qinghe remained silent all the way, whether it was the emotions of the original owner or the mischief of the demon, in short, she was restless. The young man saw her silent and asked, "Master, what are you thinking, so engrossed?" He called her several times. She said calmly, "It's nothing, I'm just thinking about what kind of weapon I should cast for you." The young man smiled and said, "I think Han Xiao is very good." Qinghe. Is he asking for the Cold Sky sword like this? But I'm sorry, she can't give it to him. This sword belongs to someone. Upon seeing Qinghe's silence, Luo Minga knew that his master would no longer cut him off, and couldn't help feeling a bit disappointed. He wanted the Cold Sky sword not because of anything else, but because it looked perfectly matched with the cloud-entering sword. We had a peaceful journey and finally arrived at the city of King Lu in the evening. The outskirts of this city of King Lu are desolate, and from a distance it looks like a dead city. But as the two walked to the center of the city, it was a different scene. The city center is unusually lively and bustling. Although it is at night, it is decorated with lights and colorful decorations everywhere, with a sea of people. A towering Lu Prince's mansion is located in the center of the entire city, showcasing the festive atmosphere with its vibrant red lanterns and red silk lining the streets. This eerie atmosphere is truly terrifying. Luo Minga instinctively grabbed Qinghe's hem. "Master. Why does this place seem strange?" Qinghe originally wanted to shake off his hand, but as soon as he turned around, he saw the young man's face turn pale. Thinking that he is just a teenage boy, it is normal to be afraid of these ghosts. He only indulged a little and didn't shake off his hand. "Qinghe. But you're afraid." The young man arrogantly said, "No, no." End of this chapter. Chapter 9. Substitute Apprentice. He bullies his teacher and destroys ancestors. 09. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9. Substitute Apprentice. He bullies his teacher and destroys ancestors. 09. It seems that in order to prove something, the young man boldly grabbed a passerby. The passerby was very ordinary, but it was different from the excitement of ordinary people. He wanted to ask questions, but the passerby kept talking to himself, with lifeless pupils, like a puppet. "Great news! His Highness the King of Lu is getting married." Along the way, the people they met repeatedly only said this one sentence. Qinghe took a step forward and glanced at the abnormal expressions of ordinary people on the street. The people were in high spirits, matching this bustling and extraordinary street. She could almost say with certainty, this city of the King of Lu seems to be hosting a grand wedding. Judging from its scale, it is very likely that the King of Lu is getting married. The sound of Suona sounded, and the people consciously made way. Luo Minga. Master, look, they seem to be coming towards us. He instinctively approached the master, who gave people a sense of security. Although everyone in the wedding procession was dressed in red clothes, holding high cards, playing drums and gongs, and playing Suona, it made people unable to help but feel creepy. This may seem like a joyous occasion, but in reality, it seems more like nothing. Qinghe frowned and said calmly, "You didn't see it wrong. They are indeed coming towards us." Luo Minga was puzzled and said, "Master, why?" "Probably because we are the only two living people in this city." Master. Are you saying they are all dead? Qinghe nodded slightly. The city of King Lu was originally a dead city. She specifically asked the system before coming. The current city of King Lu seems to have many people, but in reality, it is just a puppet made by King Lu's transformation into a ghost after his death. The city of King Lu was originally a fiefdom bestowed upon him by the emperor, but unfortunately, King Lu was incompetent and ruthless. In order to seek the art of longevity, he spared no effort in killing and persecuting his subjects. The King of Lu also achieved his wish, in a sense, immortality, and he became the Ghost King. Almost all the people in this city were made into puppets by him, and even those who managed to escape were just because that face caught his eye. After the King of Lu transformed into a ghost, he devoured his living soul and created evil deeds, strengthening his ghost power. He occupied the city, searching for eligible married women and intercepting young girls passing through the city. He likes beautiful women, and in order to fill the harem, he turns this once bustling and prosperous city into a human purgatory. The King of Lu is lecherous and chooses a woman to marry him every day. He becomes the groom every day and sleeps with the bride every night, which is very charming. As the welcoming procession approached, the sound of the Suona became increasingly deafening, causing people to feel restless and confused. Qinghe calmly said to Luo Minga, "The ghost is here, please be more careful." The young man nodded and asked, "Master, they are coming towards us. Don't we have to flee?" Qinghe said calmly, "No need, we can't escape." Upon hearing this, Luo Minga was taken aback and glanced at the wedding procession. In front of the bright red procession, a strange man with a smiling face in red clothes was baring his teeth at him, as if saying that you couldn't escape. I saw the wedding procession getting closer and closer, until the sedan chair stopped in front of them. Luo Minga instinctively looked at her and said, "Master, what are they doing?" The man in red smiled with a horror on his face and glanced at Qinghe with satisfaction. "It's great, you're still a virgin. Your Highness will definitely be satisfied. The bride, please get on the bridal sedan chair," he said. The young man blushed at the words and said angrily, "You're so reckless. You're so rude to my master." End of this chapter. Chapter 10. Substitute Apprentice. He bullies his teacher and destroys ancestors. 10. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10. Substitute Apprentice. He bullies his teacher and destroys ancestors. 10. Qinghe patted his shoulder and said calmly, "The gate of this city was completely closed from the moment we entered. If we want to go out, we can only enter the Lu Prince's mansion. We are all living people, and it will take some effort to enter the Lu Prince's mansion, so we might as well get married." Luo Minga widened his eyes in disbelief and said, "Marry in? No way. Master, you can't." Marry him. When Luo Minga regained his senses, he had already been dragged into the flower sedan by Qinghe. Is this okay? Master, master. Why did you bring me in? The space in the sedan chair is very narrow, and the two people are so close together. Luo Ming's body stiffened, and a blush spread to his neck, making him look like a cooked shrimp. Qinghe asked seriously, if I don't bring you in, how can you enter the Lu Prince's mansion? Luo Ming. I can't refute it. Qinghe remained calm and composed, without any panic. Luo Ming awkwardly lifted the curtain and looked out of the sedan chair. He could even feel the faint fragrance on his master's body. The young man's delicate and tender ears had already turned slightly red. Master, do you seem to have some understanding of this place? Qinghe looked back at him seriously and said, what do you want to say? Luo Ming Gordon panicked and said, I understand my mistake, master. I just feel that you seem to have some understanding of this area. Qinghe is not only familiar with this place. She even knows why the king of Lu married these women. Judging from the purpose of King Lu's pursuit of virginity, he is probably trying to obtain the female Yuan Yin. Only the path of the devil can be practiced in this way. Qinghe suddenly gave a cold snort and said, we're here. She stood up calmly and got off the sedan chair. Luo Ming looked at his master with a bewildered expression on his face. The strange man with a smile and red frowned when he saw Qinghe dressed in white and said, taking the bride down to change clothes is unlucky for white clothes. Then he pointed at Luo Ming and said disdainfully, why did he follow in? Forget it, lock him up. Seeing the master being taken away by them, the young man immediately panicked. No, you can't take the master away. Grasping Qinghe's hand tightly without letting go, Qinghe used a secret technique to deliver a message to him, please be calm and not impatient. I have a way to restrain the king of Lu, so please protect yourself. Luo Ming reluctantly let go of his hand. His lips moved slightly, but in the end, he didn't say anything. Qinghe was surrounded by a group of puppet-like attendants. You guys go out, I'll change it myself. Those puppets were originally common people and had human consciousness. They understood the language and retreated. Qinghe picked up the clothes on the tray and began to change. The wedding dress was very spacious, and she directly covered it with a layer. When she changed her clothes and walked out the door, a hat adorned with red tassels fell from the sky and directly covered her head. At first glance, it was a red hue. To be honest, it's a bit obstructing my line of sight and affecting my actions and judgment. Qinghe felt that the lid was a bit troublesome and wanted to lift it directly, but no matter how hard he pulled it, he couldn't pull it. She suddenly realized that perhaps the veil herself could not be lifted. I simply gave up. Although there was a bright red veil over his head, Qinghe could still clearly perceive the people around him. Especially in the crowd, that blazing gaze. It was her little disciple Luo Ming. He has some skills, not only can he get out of trouble, but he can also find her, truly worthy of being the male lead. Entering the lobby, the attendant handed her a red silk ribbon. She held one side of the red silk, while the other side was in the hands of King Lu. Because she couldn't see the appearance of King Lu clearly with a cover. End of this chapter.